Guys, welcome back to BAM Vlogs. I'm Sam. We got Bailey behind the camera.
Whoop whoop!
And today we're going back for another episode of Sizzle with Sam. And today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make one of my most requested recipes at family functions, which is basically just kind of a beef bolognese / ragu sauce that we make. As you can see here, we're going to have all the ingredients listed below. Don't worry about that, but it's all just a bunch of super common, cheap household ingredients. This is tomato paste. You can't really tell because it's in just like a Pyrex, but anyways. And when you combine them all together, give them a little bit of time, patience, and love, it's going to be the easiest, most freaking delicious base for pasta, lasagna, anything that you want. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I've got our heavy-duty Dutch oven over there on the stove preheating, and we're gonna start by browning off our 3 pounds of lean ground beef. So follow me, we're going on an adventure. We're gonna go ahead and get our ground beef into a pan that we've got on medium-high heat that's been preheating for a little bit. What we're trying to do here is brown it up all nice and good, not necessarily like cook it all the way through quite yet. But we want to get a good sear on all this and start to render out some of that fat. So that way, whenever we cook our vegetables in here, it has a good flavor to work with and build a base for the rest of our sauce. All right, so I've got my beautiful assistant helping me out.
Sous chef.
Sous chef, that's right, helping me out here. So what she's doing is she is just browning the beef in that pan there a little bit. So you don't want to move it around too much because you want it to start to develop a good color on there, but you're doing great. So what we're going to do now that we've got all the beef in there is we're going to season it. So we're going to do a few grounds of freshly cracked black pepper.
Tell me when to stop, like Olive Garden.
Probably like now.
Okay.
And then we're going to put a few pinches of salt in there. And now a good rule of thumb when you're seasoning with salt is always do a little bit more than you think you need. Like, I would do a lot more than that, baby girl.
Oh, how much more?
Like, think about like big manly pinches of salt.
Okay, tell me when to stop.
Okay, good. And now that you've got it all seasoned, you're gonna go ahead and just mix it up, make sure that the seasoning is all nice and evenly distributed throughout so you don't have any pieces that are overly salty or some that aren't salty enough. And then once you do that, really you're just gonna kind of let it sit for a little bit, start to brown on that one side. It's gonna look a little bit gray. You're not gonna cook it all the way through quite yet, but you want it to start developing a good sear and get that fond going on the pot. So that way, whenever we deglaze it with our white wine later, you can really get a good base of flavor going for the rest of your sauce. Now that our beef is all nice and brown, like I said, it's still probably not going to be cooked all the way through, but we're going to try to cook it the rest of the way through in a few steps. But we've got a lot of good fat and liquid that's being rendered out right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're just going to take a slotted spoon and we're going to transfer it into a bowl and set aside for a few minutes, okay? And then once we get that out, we're also going to go through with a paper towel and we're gonna dump out and wipe down the bottom of that a little bit. You don't wanna scrub at it necessarily because there's also good flavor down there, but we just don't need all of that fat, especially because we're gonna be introducing some bacon here in a minute. That's gonna give some good pork fat to it and give it a nice, good, rich flavor. And we just don't wanna overwhelm it, you know? We're trying to be healthy and watch our weight.
Show the world those pretty eyes. I love you. Hey Sam, give the world a chef's kiss. No, you have to go. I mean, I'll take a kiss. You can give me a kiss.
Now that we've got our beef out of the bowl, we're gonna go ahead and take our bacon and toss that in. cook this down. You can also use pancetta, but we just happen to have some extra bacon lying around inside the house, so figured might as well use it. But the main thing is you just want a good, nice, fatty piece of pork. So you may have noticed there's some white clumpy things in there. That is actually, I decided we didn't have quite enough bacon that we would need, so that's some reserved bacon fat. And if you guys aren't, you absolutely need to be keeping your bacon fat after you cook it. It is literally just like pure bacon flavor, and it's so good to add to big meat sauces like this. You can use it on like barbecue chicken if you want, all that good stuff. So seriously recommend doing that. And also it saves your drain pipes from getting clogged with bacon grease. So now we've got our vegetable mix in the pot, and we're gonna cook this down until some of the liquid evaporates before we deglaze it with our white wine. So one thing you'll notice with our vegetables, on the ingredient list we're gonna have carrots. We happen to be out of carrots whenever we film this video, and because of the whole COVID situation, our store did not have any carrots, which is unfortunate. Second thing you'll notice, to chop these vegetables and prepare them, usually you would see like a really fine dice, which you can absolutely achieve in a food processor, but one thing that I like to do for my honey wife behind the camera over there, she's not a big fan of some of the texture of like celery or onion.
I'm picky.
Yeah, but we still need that for the flavor. So what you can do is almost puree it, and there's gonna be quite a bit of moisture from the onion, but if you throw it into a pot with high heat, you're gonna evaporate most of that moisture, and what you're left with is just a really, really fine onion and celery consistency, which you're not gonna notice in the sauce, but you're still gonna get that flavor that it helps develop. And so once we get to a point like this with our vegetables, what we're gonna do is add in about 2/3 a cup of tomato paste, which I'm just gonna do the rest of this here. All right. This is gonna help bring a really, really robust tomato flavor. It's also gonna help give it that kind of really good texture too. So we're gonna get this all in. It's also gonna help develop a nice fond at the bottom of the pan that's gonna be great whenever we deglaze. And yeah. Okay, so now that we've got our tomato paste added, Bailey is going to add in the rest of our ground beef. And once she gets all of that back into the pot, she's gonna take the wooden spoon that we've got there and grind it up real nice and thin, pressing down really hard, okay? And while she's doing that, I'm gonna open up a bottle of white wine to go and deglaze the bottom of the pan. You could absolutely use red. We're gonna be using a Pinot Grigio here. Typically with Italian dishes, if there's the fat in your dish is pork fat, which we removed all the fat from the beef, you wanna use a white wine. If you're keeping the beef, you could use a red. We've made this with the red before, and it absolutely helps. It has like a delicious flavor, but I just think that the white wine has a little bit of a sweeter, more nuanced flavor that goes really well with all the saltiness and savoriness of the dish.
Look at my amazing work. I did all that.
She did. It smells and looks fantastic. So what we're gonna do now is we got about 2 cups of wine, which is perfect because for the bottle that we bought, it leaves just enough for the cook. And we're gonna go ahead and dump all of that in to our pot. Okay, and once we get that all nice and covered with the wine, we're gonna again take our spoon and really try to break up all of the little bits and clumps of meat that we've got going on here. And we're actually gonna turn this all the way up to like high, and we're gonna cook this until basically all of this wine evaporates. It's gonna concentrate the flavors that we've got going on here really, really well, so that whenever we add our chicken stock and our milk and our other cooking liquids later to really build on the sauce, it's gonna give it a really, really good flavor. All right, so now that our wine liquid is basically gone, we're gonna stir in 2 cups of milk. I already stirred in the first cup, okay? And then we're also going to go ahead and add 2 cups of chicken broth or chicken stock, which is almost exactly the amount we had. I did not plan that, folks. Stir that in. All right, and then almost the last thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna add in a little bit of our homemade tomato sauce. If you guys are interested in learning how to do that, it's super easy. Just leave a comment down below. We can shoot a video on how to do that. So I'm just gonna kind of probably dump in most of this. Yeah, might as well do all of it. Okay, so stir that in, and then we're gonna add in a couple tablespoons of garlic and a few bay leaves, and we're just gonna let this simmer for about 3 hours. Now, important to note, if you want your garlic flavor to really shine through, don't add it in at the beginning when you add in the rest of your vegetables, because garlic burns like really easy. So when you add it in when you're cooking at that really high temperature, it's just gonna burn up and taste gross. You're never actually gonna taste the garlic.